Welcome back to Kringle's Christmas Stories, brought to you by KringlesChristmas.com, home of Comet's Choice Premium Reindeer Food. Reindeer tested, Santa approved. Tonight we have a very special Christmas story for you. The reindeer gathered outside the barn, their breath misting in the crisp morning air. Snow crunched under their hooves as they trotted toward the open training grounds, where Santa stood waiting. His red coat gleamed like fresh holly berries against the icy backdrop, and his smile, wide and warm, seemed to melt the chill around him. "Good morning, team." Santa's deep voice boomed, carrying effortlessly over the gentle hum of the workshop in the distance. The reindeer formed a semicircle around him, their heads held high. The golden harnesses they wore, freshly polished by the elves, glinted in the pale sunlight. Even Rudolph, whose bright nose cast a warm glow across the scene, stood a little taller. "Today," Santa began, "is a special day. We're conducting our final practice run before Christmas Eve, but this time, we'll be testing the new Stardust propulsion system." The reindeer exchanged excited glances. "Stardust propulsion?" Comet asked, his voice brimming with curiosity. Santa nodded, his eyes twinkling. "It's the most advanced magical technology we've ever used, designed to make the sleigh faster, more efficient, and able to travel greater distances with less strain on all of you." "Sounds like a dream," Dasher muttered, already imagining the thrill of zooming through the sky at lightning speed. "But," Santa continued, holding up a gloved hand, "it's untested. That's why today's practice run is so important. We need to make sure the system is stable, safe, and ready for the big night." Blitzen steps forward, his chest puffed out with pride. "You can count on us, Santa. We'll make it happen," Santa smiled. "I know you will, Blitzen. That's why you're my team. Now, handlers, prepare the sleigh." The reindeer turned their attention to the elves who were wheeling the sleigh onto the snowy runway. It was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, its golden runners gleaming and its red body adorned with swirling silver patterns. Large pouches of shimmering stardust were secured along the back, their glow faint but steady. The elf handlers busied themselves with final checks, adjusting the reins and ensuring the harnesses were perfectly aligned. "Looks sturdy enough to me," said Jolly Jingle, giving the runner a playful kick. "I hope so," muttered Tinker Twinkle, inspecting the propulsion system with a frown. "This is cutting-edge magic. One wrong twist and we're talking fireworks, not flight." Santa climbed aboard the sleigh, settling into the plush red seat with a satisfied sigh. "Team to your positions," he called. The reindeer moved with practiced precision, each one stepping into their designated spot in the harness line. Blitzen and Dasher took the lead, their heads held high, while Prancer and Vixen followed, their antlers gleaming in the light. Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Rudolph rounded out the formation, their hooves kicking up small clouds of snow as they settled into place. "All set," called Peppersparkle, giving the harnesses a final tug. "All right, team," Santa said, his voice steady and commanding. "Let's take this sleigh for a spin." The reindeer tensed their muscles, coiling like springs as they prepared for takeoff. "On Dasher, on Dancer, on Prancer and Vixen," Santa bellowed, his voice carrying through the crisp air. With a mighty leap, the reindeer surged forward, their hooves pounding against the snow before lifting effortlessly into the sky. The sleigh glided smoothly behind them, its golden runners skimming the surface of the clouds. The Stardust propulsion system hummed faintly at first, its glow pulsing in rhythm with the team's movements. As they gained altitude, the hum grew louder and the sleigh accelerated, leaving a trail of shimmering stardust in its wake. "This is incredible," Rudolph shouted, his nose casting a brilliant beam of light that pierced the thick clouds ahead. Santa laughed, the sound rich and joyful. "Keep it steady, team." The reindeer soared higher, their hooves slicing through the air with ease. For a moment, everything felt perfect. The sky stretched out before them, endless and inviting, and the sleigh's movements were as smooth as a snowflake drifting on the wind. But then a strange sound broke the harmony. The soft hum of the propulsion system grew louder, its pitch rising into a sharp whine. The stardust pouches began to flicker erratically, their glow dimming and brightening in rapid succession. "Santa," Comet called over his shoulder, "that doesn't sound right." Santa frowned, tugging gently at the reins. "Slow down, team. Let's ease into a lower altitude." Before he could finish, the propulsion system let out a deafening crack. A burst of light erupted from the sleigh, sending it lurching violently to the side. The reindeer cried out as the sudden force pulled at their harnesses, throwing them off balance. "Hold steady," Blitzen shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The sleigh spiraled downward, its once smooth flight replaced by wild, unpredictable jerks. The propulsion system sputtered and the trail of stardust behind them faded into nothing. "Mayday," Dasher yelled. The reindeer strained against their harnesses, trying to regain control. But the sleigh continued to plummet, the ground rushing up to meet them. "Brace yourselves," Blitzen commanded, his voice steady despite the panic around them. With a final jarring lurch, the sleigh crashed into a snowbank, sending a flurry of white powder into the air. The reindeer landed in a tangled heap, their breaths coming in heavy puffs of frost. For a long moment, silence filled the forest. Then a chorus of groans and coughs broke the silence. "Is everyone all right?" Santa's voice, usually so jolly, was tinged with concern. One by one, the reindeer struggled to their feet, shaking off the snow and checking for injuries. "I think I pulled a hamstring," Donner grumbled, limping slightly. "My antlers are tangled with Cupids," Prancer complained, trying to untangle himself. Rudolph, his nose glowing faintly, staggered back a few steps, his eyes wide with shock. "What happened?" he asked, his voice trembling. "The Stardust propulsion system malfunctioned," Santa said, climbing out of the wreckage and inspecting the sleigh. The pouches that had once shimmered with magical energy were now dull and lifeless, their contents scattered across the snow. "It seems we pushed it a little too far," Santa sighed, running a gloved hand over his white beard. "But the elves assured us it was ready." Dasher protested, his voice filled with indignation. "I know, Dasher," Santa said calmly, "but even the best magic can have its hiccups. The important thing is that no one is seriously hurt." He looked around at his team, his eyes filled with concern. "We'll need to get the sleigh back to the workshop and figure out what went wrong," Santa said. "We can't risk another incident like this on Christmas Eve." The reindeer nodded solemnly, their earlier excitement replaced by a sense of urgency. They knew that millions of children were counting on them, and they couldn't let a little setback like this ruin Christmas. With a renewed sense of purpose, the reindeer gathered around the wrecked sleigh, their hooves digging into the snow as they prepared to pull it back to the workshop. It was going to be a long night, but they were determined to fix the Stardust propulsion system and ensure that Santa's sleigh would be ready for its most important journey of the year. As the reindeer trudged through the snow, their breath-forming frosty clouds in the air, a sense of determination settled over them. This wasn't just about fixing a sleigh, it was about preserving the magic of Christmas. And for Santa's reindeer, that was a mission worth every ounce of their strength. Thanks for dropping by Kringle's Christmas Stories, and have a very Merry Christmas. Remember to get your Comet's Choice reindeer food at cometschoice.com.